So Brian Gutekunst just had a press conference, and he had lots of very interesting things to talk about. So I have 7 bullet points here. I think the biggest topics he basically covered in his entire, I think it was about 30-minute press conference. So I sort of want to go through each of these things. I'll cover Aaron Rodgers, sort of what he thinks about what's happening there, potential use of franchise tag, Jordan Love, some things about the salary cap as well in this entire video. If you guys are new here, I put out Packers content pretty much daily. So if you're into Packers news, content, all things like that, feel free to subscribe to the channel down below. So the first thing he talks about in this press conference is basically that Aaron Rodgers is, the biggest domino that has to fall. Basically, as lots of us have said, whatever happens with Aaron Rodgers really affects the rest of the team. Clearly, with him being Aaron Rodgers, with the salary cap number he holds, all those different things clearly affect the entire Packers team. And whatever happens with Aaron will greatly affect everything else about this Packers team. Second, this is a pretty interesting one. So they were sort of discussing, Brian Gutekunst was, his relationship with Aaron Rodgers, basically how it has taken lots of steps forward. Of course, a year ago, last season, Aaron Rodgers seemed to have some problems and some issues with the front office, basically that they weren't, really in conversation with each other. Aaron sort of felt like they weren't really listening to his input. But now it seems from, first off, Aaron Rodgers talking this entire season, plus yesterday on the Pat McAfee show, Aaron Rodgers was discussing basically how him and Brian Gutekunst, the front office, have a very, very good relationship now, and Brian Gutekunst talked on this as well. So that's definitely good news. So Brian Gutekunst said that the hiring of Tom Clements is an example of how Aaron Rodgers is involved in the conversation. It's not a direct quote, that's basically what he said. So I find it pretty interesting that Aaron Rodgers was involved in that conversation when we don't really know if he is going to come back, because it would be sort of odd if Aaron, sort of helped that decision. For him maybe not to return. Maybe he's just being helpful and saying, this guy's a great option, you should bring him back. And I think the Packers are like, okay, sounds like a good idea, Aaron. And maybe it is the Packers sort of trying to entice Aaron Rodgers to come back, to bring back a guy that he really, really cares about. I could see sort of that making sense. But it is interesting that he was sort of involved in that conversation. I guess if Aaron doesn't return, the Packers still need to have, a good QB's coach there to hopefully coach up Jordan Love. But the more I hear things in the past couple of days from Aaron Rodgers speaking, Brian Gutekunst speaking, I'm really leaning toward Aaron Rodgers returning. Obviously, we don't really know yet if that's going to happen, but that's sort of how I'm leaning currently. Next part, so he was talking about the franchise tag. Brian Gutekunst was basically saying that it's not really something the Packers like to use. He was saying if it was used, it would be used as a last resort. He said they will exhaust all other options before it happens, but he would rather come to a long-term agreement with a player instead of having to use a franchise tag. So clearly with Davante Adams and his situation, with him wanting to be one of the highest paid or the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL, the question is, are the Packers going to use a franchise tag on him? Are they going to extend him? So what I sort of think is going on here, I sort of feel like we already know what Davante Adams wants. He wants to be the highest paid, wide receiver in the NFL. I don't know if the Packers want to pay him at that level with all the other things they have going on. And so maybe they won't franchise tag him unless, Davante doesn't come forth and, maybe be like, okay, maybe I'll take a little less. And the Packers will be like, okay, we'll do a deal. And maybe if Davante doesn't come down, maybe they just decide to use a franchise tag on him. That's sort of what I think is going on there. Maybe we'll wait and see in the next couple of weeks what happens with the franchise tag. But Gutekunst was saying they don't want to have to use it, but basically if they need to, they will use it. He then says that he feels confident that they can field a great team while paying and keeping Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. And that the reporter asking that question was basically saying, with the salary cap as it is, bringing back both Aaron and Davante, would the Packers be able to, I still guess, be very, very competitive, even though they're spending all that money? He was basically saying, yes, we definitely can. We can play at an elite level with those guys. We'll be able to do lots of other things with the salary cap to get things going. And then they were sort of asking him about potentially releasing players to get under the salary cap, and he was saying that he doesn't think they'll have to get rid of lots of players. It sort of seemed like maybe a couple guys would have to go, but he was saying he doesn't see there being some like fire sale where they're just releasing tons of players to get under the salary cap. And as he was talking, it really seems that he's not too worried about the salary cap. We saw earlier today that the Packers like restructured Kenny Clark's deal around, did tons of things, turning bonuses to other bonuses, freeing up like $10 to $11 million. And so he said there's lots of other things they are able to do like that. There are lots of other players' contracts that they probably will be touching in the next couple of weeks to get under that salary cap. And then one thing too, now apparently in the past, the Packers didn't really push too much money into the future when it came to, players' contracts. But Gutekunst was saying because when the pandemic happened and it came, they sort of had to change the way they looked at things. Of course, with the salary cap dropping drastically with COVID and all of that stuff, Gutekunst was saying they wanted to continue to field a competitive team because they really felt like they had all the players that they needed. And so to keep all those guys around, they had to start pushing this money into the future so that they would be able to continue to field sort of the team that they had there. And so coming into this season as well, they're going to continue doing that because right now they're still, according to Over the Cap, they're still over about $40 million over the cap, even after, sort of messing with Kenny Clark's contract. And so there's probably going to be a lot more things that they're going to have to do on that front as well. And then finally, he was asked about Jordan Love and sort of where he sees Jordan Love and his progress in this past season. And he said he thought that Jordan Love made lots of strides this past season and last spring when he was there. And he said he thinks Jordan probably wished things went a little better during the season when he did get to play, but it seems like he thinks he's taken some steps forward. So he seems to think Jordan Love is in a good spot, sort of moving forward, progressing. So maybe in the next couple of seasons, we'll see more of that. And maybe, too, with Tom Clements being there as a QB's coach, that'll probably help, considering people seem to think Aaron Rodgers, all those guys think he's a great at developing quarterback. So it was a very interesting press conference. If you haven't watched it, definitely go check it out because there was even more things that he did discuss. But that was sort of the biggest things that I took away from that. But still, we don't know what Aaron Rodgers is going to decide. Gutekunst was saying that, there's no timetable, there's no deadline that they gave Aaron. They're sort of communicating with one another. The communication seems to be really good between Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, whereas last season things were really, confusing and we didn't really exactly know where anyone was at. Now it seems like we sort of know how everyone's feeling. We know that Aaron Rodgers is in a good place with the front office. The front office is in a good place with Aaron Rodgers. And things seem to be going really well. So honestly, as I said earlier, I still feel like Aaron Rodgers is going to return, especially these past couple of days, seeing Aaron Rodgers interview with Pat McAfee, seeing Brian Gutekunst's conversation today as well. It just seems to me like the communication is so good. Aaron Rodgers seems like he's in a really good place, and I honestly would be shocked to not see Aaron Rodgers back here in 2021. Maybe I'm crazy, and maybe it doesn't happen, but that's sort of what I'm feeling. But I'm curious, what do you guys think? Drop it in the comments down below. Do you guys think Aaron will return? Are you feeling what I'm feeling? Maybe not. Let me know in the comments down below. But that is all for right now. Thank you guys so much for watching as always. I'll see you guys next time.